Welcome back to the RGV Sports Podcast. My name is Bryan Ramos. I'm a sports writer with RGVSports.com.
And my name is Ivan Palacios. I'm also a sports writer with RGVSports.com. And welcome to our first episode of the 2024 RGVSports.com football podcast. Bryan, football's back in session. I mean, how are you feeling heading into this new year, man?
Oh man, this is my favorite time of year. Kickoff less than a week away. Football season is my favorite time. I know everybody says Christmas time, the holidays are their favorite time of the year, but for me, it's August through January through that Super Bowl, really through February, when you get high school football, college football, and the NFL all underway. Can't nothing beat it, man. How are you feeling, Ivan?
I'm feeling good, man. We're about a week away from the regular season. Some changes here and there. Offseason was kind of weird in some places. Realignments took place, stuff like that. And a lot of stuff to watch going into this year, but I'm excited to head back on that field. Just being on those sidelines, those Friday night lights, Thursday night lights here down, too. It's just exciting. There's a lot of stuff to look forward to in this new year, And, like I said, lots of storylines to watch out for, man. Couple things like realignment, let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was an interesting offseason. Of course, every 2 years, UIL realignment and redistricting takes place, reclassification. And this offseason, we did have some reclassification-wise. And I think obviously the headliner when it comes to reclassification was Brownsville Veterans, who was a state semifinalist last year in the Class 5A Division I level, Ivan, now moves up to Class 6A to join District 32 6A with some real lower valley powers.
Yeah, man, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, obviously, you see them go 5 rounds deep last year, get to that state semifinal. Now they're competing in a whole different animal. You got teams like, obviously you got the Harlan and the San Benitos. Now you got Westlake in the mix. Teams from up north that you got to get through to get to that round. So it's going to be interesting to see how they can compete. But, on top of that, some shakeup here in the valley, too, with those coastal bend teams joining the district with the PSJ North, those, I believe, who else is in that district? We got Flower Bluff going in there, Corpus Christi. Just your thoughts on that, seeing those teams in district instead of the playoffs now, man.
Yeah, now at the Class 5A level, I know we kind of had a little taste of it this past year with Brownsville Porter, Brownsville Lopez kind of being in the district with Gregory Portland and Flower Bluff. Well, now those Coastal Bend teams are in a district with some of the Valley big dogs. With, like we said, in District 15 5A D1, it features Corpus Christi Flower Bluff, Corpus Christi Veterans, and then you got Valley teams like PSJ North, Westaco East, Harlingen South, Donna High, all teams that were playoff teams from the season ago, and PSG Memorial, can't forget them, the team that had just a hell of a season last year. So District 15 5A D1, there's 9 teams, 7 of them were in the playoffs last year. As we know, only 4 teams make the playoffs, so that district every week will be one to watch, and district play for those guys starts off in week 3, so just a couple weeks of non-district play, and then those games that would normally be playoff games and that we'd see some of the Coastal Bend teams in the second and third round. Now we got those in the regular season, Ivan. So just what are your thoughts on them? When we got also Cal Allen and Alice back in the mix, Ivan. So just your thoughts on some of those other schools that Valley will be seeing.
I think these Valley teams are going to be a lot more battle tested come playoff time. Now you got to take on those Cal Allens, like you mentioned. You got Alice, Lavia moves down to D2. You got a few joining, I think, D1, 16-2-way D1. So it's just a lot more challenging for these Valley teams early season, which I think is only going to help them in the long run. It's going to be that early season challenge. They're seeing these teams early on instead of not knowing what to expect. They have that test early on, so I think it's going to be exciting to watch them play. I think it's going to help the growth of football down here. And yeah, man, I'm excited to see how we stack up against those Colts. It's a little rivalry there, the Coastal Bend RGV, especially after last year. We saw what happened with Miller and Brownsville guys. I think it just added fuel to that fire. Now It's going to be that district rivalry on top of that, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody wants to be the belle of the ball, the South Texas ball, and it's the Valley, it's Laredo, it's Coastal Bend, and then some South San Antonio. And really, this season is going to pit kind of everybody against each other, especially in the regular season. So, I know some of our best teams, they look forward to those matchups. They don't run from anybody. So, looking forward to getting into some of that as district approaches in a couple weeks. And some other offseason storylines. We had 7 coaching changes over the offseason. I think the biggest one is Edward Villa. Saw the retirement of former coach John Campbell, who every year we're competing for district titles, deep playoff runs. He announces his retirement in late January, and Edward Villa announces the hiring of head coach Ernie Alonso, the former McAllen High defensive coordinator, who McAllen High has been on a boom these last few years after a few down years before Coach Patrick Shelby took over. Alonso was defensive coordinator. now he's an Edinburgh guy. He goes back to Edinburgh Villa to lead that program. So really looking forward to seeing what sort of steps and what Edinburgh Villa will look like this year and the years to come. And Ivan, we had a kind of another homecoming in Starr County with one of the best players to ever come out of Starr County, kind of returning home.
Star quarterback Abel Gonzalez went to Korea, opened that program up there. I think it was there 13 years at Korea.
Yeah.
Helped turn that for, I think, 8 or 9 straight playoff appearances. He's heading back home to Rio Grande City now, back to his alma mater, to lead a program that hasn't made the playoff, I think, in 3 years or so. So he's got some work to do there, but I'm sure he's happy to be back home. It's also exciting for Korea. It's their first head coach, or only their second head coach in program history. Defensive coordinator Alejandro Bazan takes over that team. But excited for Coach Gonzalez. I got to talk to him last year. He got inducted to the Hall of Fame at Kingsville. I think he's ready for that challenge. He has pride in his work, especially being in his hometown, being there before. So it's going to be fun to see what he can do with that program. A program that, in recent years has struggled a little, but now it's his turn. Can he bring that success back like when he had back in his day? So excited for him. Congratulations to Coach Gonzalez. Best of luck over at Rio Grande City. I'm sure it was hard leaving Korea. You started that program from the ground up pretty much. Now back home.
Yeah, and some other coaching changes throughout the offseason. La Jolla Waters Lincoln announced hiring of Daniel Cortez as their head coach. La Feria announced Craig Foster as their head coach, comes over from Harlingen South. Monte Alto announces Fred Gonzalez as their head coach. And then finally, Hidalgo names Jason Wheeler their head coach, former Sharyland Pioneer head coach, and coached several stops across the valley here including San Benito and others. So, just a few changes over the off season that we're really looking forward to seeing how these programs and these head coaches in new spots kind of take over and are able to lead and help build those programs. And while we had some coaching changes, we also had some players, some marquee kind of players, move around this year due to some transfer situations and parents moving to other schools and taking jobs at different teams. So, and that starts off with our one of the top players here in the valley, the top returning passer in the Rio Grande Valley, in Jeffrey Lefevre, going from Donna to Edinburgh Villa.
It's a big move, man. You get the top passer in the valley, first year head coach. Definitely a blessing for him. It was kind of, you had Miles Lopez there last year. We'll get into it in a little bit, but Lefevre comes in, you get an established passer. I'm sure as a head coach, you got to be happy. You got to worry about who's QB1. You got a guy who can run the show. He's been a 3-year, letterman at Donna, played 3 years there, started 2, and he's a quarterback. You look at him, he's over 6 feet tall. He just looks like a quarterback. So a true blessing there for Villa. Donna High is going to have some question marks there now, but Jeffrey Lefevre, like I said, comes over to Edinburgh Villa for his final year, and Villa's always known for those athletes. So I'm excited to see how he can work with that group of athletes there. But now Villa's quarterback moves over to PSG High. You got a chance to see him last year. PSG High, consistent at quarterback for 4 years, new face there. So talk about that move a little.
Yeah, so PSG High football under Coach Lupe Rodriguez, they're known for that spread attack and airing it out. And they just lost Jaime Lopez due to graduation, 4-year starter there at PSG High, who's going to play quarterback. Or how about a quarterback from one of the best programs in the valley who has 2 years starting experience, maybe 1.5, as Miles Lopez kind of splits time starting during his sophomore season. Junior year, it was his show to run there at Edinburgh Villa. They had a hell of a season, finished second in district in the second round of the playoffs. Now he moves over to PSG High, Ivan, and he's ready to air that thing out. I know PSG High has some weapons that you've seen. So, what are your expectations of Miles Lopez moving to PSG High and playing that offense with some real weapons?
I don't want to sound optimistic, but a 3,000-yard season isn't out of the question. He could be the top passer in the valley. You talk about guys like Bryan Vallejo, Caleb Salas, Emiliano Fraga, probably top receiving core in the valley, in my opinion. You added running back George Alanis, who can get it done out of the backfield, as a receiver, or you can hand the ball up to him. It's going to be an explosive offense. They always are known for explosive offense. I think the question was coming into this year, we talked about who's going to replace Hyman. Now it's like just learn the offense and you'll be good. So there's weapons galore. I would not, exclude a 3,000-yard season coming out of PSG High. And, lots of touchdowns for sure. It's going to be if you like points, they're going to be a team to watch for sure. And another move at the 6A level from one district to another, you get Tyler Reese from Edinburgh North moving over to San Benito. another 3 year, I think it's third year on varsity. Played receiver as a freshman for the Cougars. Quarterback last year. I mean, what do you know about him? And especially Sam Nino replacing that a starter in Aaron Cortez from last year.
Yeah, so Tyler Ruiz is somebody who I'm coming up through the junior high ranks. Obviously he started out at Edinburgh North, so I'm an Edinburgh guy from Edinburgh, and I know the teams that he was leading in junior high were really good, and now he takes over the starting spot at Edinburgh North as a sophomore. Last season showed some flashes throughout the year, Ivan, but now he goes to just one of the most tradition rich programs here in the Valley, a program that's known for playing hard nosed football, known for their toughness, kind of for in your face style. And now they got a new quarterback in Tyler Ruiz to kind of lead the charge there in San Benito for a program that's undergone some change in the offseason.
It couldn't come at a better time. You lose your all time leading rusher in Fabian Garcia. Your quarterback graduates. So what better time for this guy to come in and kind of fill those shoes? I mean, it's going to be big shoes to fill, that's for sure. Aaron Cortez was a 2-year starter. Fabian Garcia was there for 3 years, but he'll help shoulder that load offensively, and he can get it done through the air and through the with his legs too. So I think that'll help kind of make up for that rushing yards that they're losing from last year. So another exciting move at quarterback, and it's going to be interesting to see these guys in different colors, this year, especially after what we've seen from them in the last couple of years.
Absolutely, yeah, and just those are just a few of the changes and then some of the notable things that happened during the 23-24 offseason leading into this 2024 season. And now to really get this first episode of the RGVSports.com football podcast going, we're going to dive right into our preseason top 10 rankings of our 5A, 6A level, our top 4 rankings in the sub 5A level, Ivan. And then now that we're branching out to the Coastal Bend with some coverage this year, we're going to include our Coastal Bend top 4 teams. I mean, just what are your thoughts on the Coastal Bend and how we're branching out there now that Coastal Bend teams are right in our district in football all season long?
I mean, I think it feels right. We see these teams year after year. I feel like we know just as much about them as we do our local teams. And now, I mean, they're playing against, we see them more regularly now. So I think it only makes sense for us to branch out. I'm excited to kind of dip our toes in the water over there this year and, get to know them a little more. But there's some athletes out there, I can tell you that. So we'll dive a little more into their top 4, but how about we kick off our top 10 with the team we were just talking about, a tradition-rich program in the San Benito Greyhounds, man. This program, they lose a lot, I can tell you that. Only 2 returning starters on defense. The offense brings about 5 or 6 guys back, but they've never missed the playoffs under Dan Gomez. 10 years there, 10 straight playoff appearances. This is going to be his 11th year there, so you can't count him out despite what they lose. And then you also look at who they bring back. I mean, you got Tyler Reese, like we mentioned, new quarterback, should fit in right there. You got Angel Trevino at running back, who had almost 500 yards and about 6 touchdowns in a very limited role. You're talking about a guy who saw time in maybe the end of games, or when you have Fabian Garcia, you're not going to stray away from him too much. But this guy seems like he's ready to fill in those shoes. And then you got a junior in Tommy Ramirez who has 4.6 speed. So 2 guys there that can fill those shoes. And the defense is going to be the biggest question mark, though. Replacing 9 starters. You got guys that transferred out, guys that graduated. But that non-district schedule, I want to say the toughest district in the Valley, or toughest schedule in the Valley. You got Westlake, Carthage, PSG North, Weslaco. And what are your thoughts on a schedule like that? And what do you think it'll do for such a young team?
Hey man, I mean, pressure makes diamonds, man, and that's one of the cool things that we've seen here in the Rio Grande Valley is, I mean, in order to get to that level where the Rio Grande Valley football wants to get, you got to play with the big dogs, and whether that means taking your beatings, taking your lumps a couple times. And then you go back to the drawing board, heal your wounds, and you come back again next year, man, and give it your all. And that's a really cool thing coming up this season with several Valley teams playing some really good competition up north. And I mean, as you said, Ivan, San Benito's got it. I mean, maybe the toughest schedule in the Rio Grande Valley, but that's not a thing that Coach Gomez and those guys are going to run away from.
Not at all.
It's something to embrace, and I mean, we're looking forward to it. I mean, putting the Valley up against those teams that we see in the third round, 4th round, 5th round of the playoffs. Now it's like, hey, let's take a week 2, week 3 trip up north and let's give them hell. So really looking forward to seeing what San Benito can do this year. And with San Benito coming in, starting off the preseason poll at number 10, that leads us into our number 9 team, the Harlingen South Hawks. The Hawks finished 8-4 a season ago, 6-1 in district. But they made something happen that had kind of been evading them a little bit. The Hawks had been in the playoffs all 3 years under head coach Israel Gonzalez, but that program hadn't won a playoff game in over 10 years. They had finished as a district champion a few years ago in 6A, lost an upset in the first round. You mentioned the playoffs as the number one seed. You hope to pull off a playoff win. That didn't happen a couple years ago, but last year the Hawks kind of kicked that door down into the area around by beating McAllen Memorial in the first round of the playoffs. And now they bring back 12 starters from last year's team. So over half the starters back who experienced what it was like, some success in a tough district last year with East and Brownsville veterans. And now they bring back 12 starters who are kind of ready to show what this Harlingen South team is made of. And they'll need to, especially competing in District 15 5A D1, as we kind of talked about that district earlier. But yeah, they got two quarterbacks. Both saw some time at starter last year. Dylan Anaya, Austin Schroyer. Both of them effective on the ground and in the air, Ivan. So just expecting those guys to, and Coach Israel Gonzalez to see what he's got, see if one of them takes charge or if one of them takes that job, or splitting time and then rotating series is something that they've proven that program is comfortable doing. So excited to see how that quarterback battle and that position shapes up there for Harlingen South. But Alvin Edwards now runs the show in that backfield. He's the returning starter there for Harlingen South. He was a number 2 guy last year, kind of behind David Sanchez, who graduated. Now that backfield belongs to Alvin Edwards. Just over 600 yards last year. Just really excited to see what this offense looks like. That they run the spread, but that doesn't mean they're airing the ball. They're passing the ball 30, 40 times a game. They like to run the ball and really take it 2 teams on the ground. So really looking forward to see what Alvin Edwards can get going on the ground. And defensively, linebacker Marcus Garza, defensive back Joaquin Romero, and defensive back Luis Orozco back to lead the Harlingen South defense. And now that Harlingen South comes in at number 9, that leads us into our number 8 team in the preseason, Ivan, the McAllen Memorial Mustangs, who, they missed the playoffs a couple years ago, which was something that hadn't happened. It only happened once in the last 15 years. And since then, a couple years ago, McAllen Memorial has returned to form. And this year, Ivan and I expect them to be able to compete for a district championship with 13 starters back, with 13 returning starters, 6 on offense, 7 on defense. This McAllen Memorial team has, I believe, the tools to compete for a district title in 16 5A D1, along with the 3 McAllen schools, Palmview, La Jolla Waters, Lincoln, Mission High, and of course El Rubella. So McAllen Memorial in shape there to really have another strong season. Running back JP Garza had over 800 rushing yards last season to lead the Mustangs, and that was splitting time. Now he's the lead returner in the backfield. We saw him at Media Day, caught up with him. He looks bigger, faster, stronger. So expecting a good season from JP Garza in this Memorial pro-style offense that really likes to run the ball. And they got quarterback Kane Coy, who is the district 15 5A D1 newcomer of the year last year at the quarterback position as a sophomore. And now he steps into his junior season. He showed he has 4.51 speed, some good speed to really do some damage on the ground. Not something that Memorial has done in recent years. Not really an element that offense has had. But King Coy is really an explosive runner and threw for over 700 yards in a run-first offense. So he showed he can hit some big throws downfield, and he's a center fielder. Pitcher came up big for McAllen Memorial's baseball team that went 5 rounds deep, and now he's ready to take another step forward on the football field to lead this McAllen Memorial team. And with McAllen Memorial, our number 8 team, that takes us back up to the Class 6A level, District 32 6A, for one of the big dogs here in the Rio Grande Valley.
Yeah, man. I mean, those Fresno's Falcons, they come in at number 7, like you said, back to that 6A level and back to the 32 6A level to be specific. I mean, I think we got 4 teams from that district in our top 10 this year, and rightfully so. I mean, Los Fresnos has been one of the more consistent teams under Coach David Cantu. 3 straight playoff appearances under him. The biggest problem is they've been finishing 4th every year. And, no district title. They're looking for their first district title to 2015. And I think this year they're a dark horse candidate to come out there. I mean, they got a 3-year starter in quarterback Robert Pineda, who's a true dual threat. I mean, in his first 2 years, over 3,000 passing yards, over 1,500 rushing yards. I mean, the guy can get it done through the air with his legs. Doesn't matter. Pick your poison against him. And then you got receivers like Lucky Perales and Josh Limon coming back. 2 guys that really, built that connection with Pineda over the past 2 years. So that offense should be solid. I think the biggest question is going to be running back. They did graduate their top 2 rushers from a year ago, but they got a guy in J.C. Fuentes, averaged almost 9 yards a carry last year. I mean, he only had maybe 50, 60 carries, but to average 9 yards, that's ridiculous. Like, he has the speed to break it out wide, and I think he will, thrive there in that backfield next to Robert Pineda. It's going to be kind of like, which one do you want to run, Robert or JC? That defense, though, I mean, you got guys like Cade Stumble, versatile, safety, can play against the runner, the pass. You got Juan Sanchez at middle linebacker, and then you got Abraham Elizondo, a corner. He was a sophomore last year, played about 9 games, so he got hurt, hamstring injury, kept him out through the back half of the year. But kid's a stud, man. 30 tackles, I think 2 interceptions, 10 passes deflected. As a sophomore, I mean, that just shows his potential as a lockdown defender. But my biggest thing for Los Fresnos is, can they get over that hump? Can they get past that fourth place? It's tough, though. You got Harlingen in your district. You got San Benito in your district. You add, Brownsville Vets into your district now. So do they have the tools, though? I firmly believe they do. Like I mentioned, they're probably one of my dark horse candidates to come out of that district. But an exciting team to watch. Like I mentioned, the Los Fresnos Falcons come in at number 7 in our top 10 poll. That brings us to a team that I don't think a lot of us expected to see much of last year. It took us a little while, at least for myself personally, so I started believing in them. They got me on board. Tell us a little about that number 6 team, Bryan.
Yeah, and number 6, kind of really one of the surprises last season. That's the PSG Memorial Wolverines, a program that had not been known for winning many football games not since the late 2000s, early 2010s. But head coach William Littleton, in his 4th year, has kind of changed that culture, gotten guys to buy in. The 2 years before he took over, they were 0-10 and 0-4. One of them was one of those COVID seasons in 2020, and since they went 1-9 in his first year back, 4-6 in year 2, and last year they started the season 7-0, tied the best start in program history, and they finished this. And they qualified for the playoffs for the first time since 2011. Finished the season 7-4, and I mean, this team, I believe, has the most returning starters of any in the Rio Grande Valley, with 16 back. So 9 on offense, 7 on defense, and really just guys that have been in this program since freshman year when Littleton took over. And it all starts from top to bottom, those changes. And these guys have bought in. They're there for summer workouts. They're getting extra work in, throwing the ball around to each other. They don't need, the coaches there to be pushing them to get on the field, because these guys are hungry and they want it. They want to change how this PSG Memorial team is viewed, and I think they've done that in kind of in short order with Coach Littleton. Quarterback Ryan Reyna, dual threat, and this PSG Memorial offense, they're a run-first offense, but quarterback Ryan Reyna threw for over 500 yards, rushed for over 800. So last year, this PSG Memorial offense had almost 3 1,000-yard rushers. Ryan Reyna was one of them. So expecting another big year out of him, leading that offense under center. And then running back Emi Kalunga, who had over 1,300 yards last year. Just a big play waiting to happen out of the PSG Memorial backfield. Really expecting big things from here senior year. And they just got returners everywhere. I mean, Thomas Lopez and Xavier Banks on defense in the secondary. Victor Rodriguez is going to play 2 ways. He's a fullback tight end, and you don't want to see that. If that guy's blocking you, you don't want to see him coming your way. If you're on defense, he's a big dude, he's a tough dude, and he plays defensive end as well. So, just really expecting good things from this PSG Memorial team, but they will be in 15-5 D1 in that tough district. Right there, So, and their non-district schedule also, they play 2 playoff teams in Brownsville Veterans and McAllen High, and then they get into that tough district. So, as we've kind of, the theme that we've been talking about is Valley teams being unafraid and ready and willing to take on those challenges. And this PSG Memorial team that just a few years ago was just trying to get their first win and snap a 14-game losing streak and win their first game in 3 years. Now they find themselves challenging themselves against some of the best the Valley has to offer. And we talk about some of the Valley, the best teams that the Valley has to offer, Ivan. I mean, our number 5 team is among the most storied programs here in Rio Grande Valley football.
Yeah, man. And number 5, we got the Harlingen High Cardinals. Like you mentioned, one of the most historic programs here in the Valley. I think they're in the top 15, 20 all time in Texas in wins. I mean, just a historic program that has that history of being good. And then under head coach Manny Gomez, even better. I mean, his 18th year going into this as the head coach at Harlingen High. He's only missed the playoff once. And last year was what you call a down year for Harlingen. They finished third in their district, but I mean, 8-4, 3-2. I mean, most teams would hope for that in a regular season. For them, it's like, oh man, we got to get back to form. But
that's
that's a down year for me. I'm taking it every year, but not in Harlingen. Tradition runs deep there. And they got the playmakers to get back to that district title level, that deep playoff run level, especially. And it starts, in the backfield. Running back Noah Huerta, sophomore last year, stepped into that starting running back role. Played primarily defense, but injuries forced him into that running back role. And I mean, he balled out 942 yards, 18 touchdowns. Especially for someone learning the position, he should look a lot more comfortable this year. And then you add in wide receiver Adam Sanchez out wide, finished second in the district in receiving yards. True playmaker out there. Question is, who's quarterback one? During scrimmages though, far this season, we've seen senior Jonas Serna and then a freshman got a lot of hype around him, Hassan Woolry, kind of splitting snaps. So we're gonna be kind of keeping an eye on that. Who's gonna get that starting job? They both are seeing reps during scrimmages, and it's gonna be interesting to see who kind of lines up, there. But they got the weapons either way. That's the biggest question mark on offense. You go to defense though, you got several returning starters, including Sterling Tallman, in my opinion, one of the top linebackers in the Valley. Guy's a true hard-nosed, just a really vintage linebacker. He's going to get in there. He's going to get dirty, but he can drop back in coverage too if he needs to. He got an interception last year. Doesn't really rush the pass as much, but if he needs to, he can. 2 years ago, he did have 4 sacks, I believe. And then you add in defensive end Jacob Ortiz off the edge. Just a true disruptive playmaker. 7 sacks a year ago. Is able to just apply that pressure from the edge. And, this defense, I talked to Sterling Tallman during media day, and he's excited for what this defense can do. And, we were able to catch up to him. Like I said, here's what Sterling had to say about this upcoming year.
What's going on, guys? Ivan Palacios with RGV Sports. I'm here with the linebacker for Harlingen, Sterling Tallman. How you doing, man?
I'm great. How are you?
Pretty good, man.
Good,
New Year's right around the corner. You guys start practicing, 2 weeks, I think? What's kind of been the mood in the locker room heading into the new year, man?
We're good. As a matter of fact, we actually just had a great day today. Just finished on our offseason. We ended up having a little talent show, just like you see in some of the NFL shows. And we actually went and played some kickball and captured the flag. Like last day, it was a great experience. And we're really coming together as a team. So we're excited for the season.
He's excited to be here. And, it seems like he has high hopes for this team. So do we. Number 5, as always, expectations high at Harlingen. They might think number 5 is a little low, but I think they got to earn a little more after last year. It's a down year, quote unquote. But we go from a historic program to one of the fastest rising programs, and have really established themselves as a powerhouse over the past couple of years. And Edinburgh Villa, what can you tell us about our number 4 team, Bryan?
Yeah, the SaberCats slide in here at number 4, and really when you have a coaching change with John Campbell and now head coach Ernie Alonso comes in, people wonder, what is this team going to look like? Well, guys, I got some news for you. The SaberCats are still going to be the same old SaberCats. They returned 13 starters, and that doesn't include quarterback Jeffrey Lefevre, who was the starting quarterback at Donna last year, the RGV's leading quarterback last year in terms of passing yardage. And Donna ran that spread offense and kind of let Lefevre kind of pick teams apart, throw that ball all over the field with wide receiver screens, jet sweeps out of the backfield to attacking people deep, and just really attacking every level of the defense, which is what you want to see from a passing attack. And now he comes into this Edinburgh Villa program, a team that needed a quarterback, having with their former starter Miles Lopez transferring out to PSJ High. So now Edinburgh Villa gets quarterback Jeffrey Lefevre steps into this role, and just really expecting big things from him, especially senior year. He's experienced. He knows what it's like. He can make all the throws required of a quarterback. So really looking forward to how he looks. And this Edinburgh Villa team, they've been in the district with PSJ North these last years. Those battles between the two have been classic. And now Edinburgh Villa finds themselves in kind of the big dog in District 16 5A D1, along with McAllen Memorial, another one of our top 10 teams. So the SaberCats should be in position to compete for another district title, as they have with PSJ North these last few years. But now I think they should be considered one of the favorites coming into this season. And we talked about their offense a little bit. Jeffrey Lefevre, he's one of they have some returners on the offensive line, tight end, Ronnie Ramirez, Jesus Cedillo on the offensive line. But they're going to have to find some answers at running back. They lost Jamal Pauly, who's now at UTRGV. In their first year playing running back, Jackson Shoup, also one of their top pass catchers, also at UTRGV. So Bella's going to have to find some weapons. But when you got Jeffrey Lefevre throwing you the ball, I don't think it's it's too hard to find some weapons. And then defensively, Ivan, I mean, on the front line, that's where it starts for this defense. RJ De Leon, Daniel Duvernay, and then last year's district newcomer of the year, defensive newcomer of the year, Ethan Delgado. Just three guys that really set the tone there on the defensive line for the SaberCats. And then on the back end, I mean, when you look at defensive backs, you like your defensive backs to have size on them. You know what I mean? And Edinburgh Bella has two safeties in Luis Garcia and Derek Rodriguez. Both of them 6'1" and 6'2". So just rangy guys that can really shut down the pass and lock down the back end of the Bella defense. And they're also unafraid to step up and show some support in the run game. So I didn't even mention linebacker Noah Lopez, who kind of burst onto the scene last year and had a really good sophomore campaign. So just really looking forward to seeing the Edinburgh Bella SaberCats and what they look like here in 2024 in a new district, first-year head coach, new quarterback, who we had a chance to speak to at rgvsports.com Media Day in late July. So here's our interview with Edinburgh Bella senior quarterback Jeffrey Lefevre.
This is Ivan Palacios from RGV Sports. I'm here with a quarterback from the Edinburgh Bella SaberCats, Jeffrey. How you doing, man?
Man, doing good. Just been working.
All right, man. You know, take me through this new year, man. New school for you. You know, final year in high school. What's it been like for you, man?
Yeah, man. I mean, new transition, senior year, final year. We really wanted to go out. Me and my dad went to new school. The guys really welcomed me there, man. Like the O-line, the offense, defense. They really just held me up with. They held me in with open arms.
Yeah, man, you're definitely one of the top players coming back this year. Definitely one of the top quarterbacks coming in back this year. I mean, do you feel any pressure after the past 2 years that you've had at Donna, you know, going into the senior year?
Not really. I mean, I feel like the past 2 years have really prepared me for my senior year to excel, and just the love that my brothers have shown me.
Talk about this new offense, man. Obviously, it's been a change. You go from Donna to Edinburgh Bellas. What's it been like, that transition offensively? Or are you still going to be running kind of the same offense as you were over at Donna?
Yeah, we're gonna kind of keep the same mold as Edinburgh Bella had. And we might throw some new stuff in. That's just something for people to wait to see.
And how's it been like meshing with new teammates, man? I mean, you're coming into a new team. You know, as a senior, you know, it's kind of, you know, these guys have been playing together long. You're coming in as a new guy. What's that been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult at first until, you know, we went by spring break. We hung out, you know, just like friend stuff. And we really became connected to that, really like best friends.
You know, we're listing our list of top players. Obviously you're near the top of that list. If you had to rank yourself among the top players in the Valley, where would you put yourself at, man?
Man, honestly, you always want to think you're the best, but you got to keep yourself humble and just love the grind.
And being number one, if you are number one, I mean, do you feel like that puts a little bit of target on your back from these other defenders? That like, let's hit that guy a little harder?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I felt it at Donna too. They were always after me with a little extra, you know. They always just had a little extra in the gas for me in the tank.
Definitely, man. What can we expect from this Vela offense this year, man? Obviously, they lose some of their top receivers from last year, but they bring you in. I'm sure they got some other skill guys coming up. What can we expect to see from this offense?
Oh, yeah, for sure. We're hungry, you know. They ended on a good season last year, and we still want to keep that going. It's tradition at Robert Vela, you know. And just expect a lot of explosive plays. You know, we got some dogs on offense and defense, so the balls really can turn anyway.
That was Edinburgh Bella senior quarterback Jeffrey Lefevre kind of giving us a little rundown of what the Edinburgh Bella SaberCats will look like and expectations coming into this 2024 season for the Edinburgh Bella SaberCats. And Ivan, with now that we move from Edinburgh Bella, Ivan, we talked about their quarterback change. We take it to our number 3 team, our top 3 teams at the spot where you want to be, and that takes us to the 6A level for an offense that not just an offense, but a team that we're expecting big things of in 31-6A.
Yeah, man. And, you know, PSJI enters, I think, with the highest expectations they've had in recent years. They're coming off that district title last year. I think it was their first one since 2018. So their first playoff win since that long. And, you know, the question, like I mentioned earlier, was who's going to be the quarterback? Here comes Miles Lopez, takes over from 4-year starter Jaime Lopez. I mean, it's going to be exciting to see him play in that offense. I think it's really going to open up his numbers are going to go through the roof. I think he's got the arm, he's got the talent to succeed out there, and it's hard to see him not succeeding on this team. or this team succeeding in general when you got guys like Ryan Vallejo, Emiliano Fraga, and Caleb Salas at receiver. We touched them a little. I mean, they combined for 29 touchdowns and over 2,200 yards last season. That's pretty solid for three receivers, I think. Running back George Alanis, I mean, that offense is going to be explosive. If you like points, go check out PSG High on any Friday night. Chances are you're going to see 30, 40 points a game.
Absolutely.
And, it's just going to be how quick can Miles learn the offense. I mean, there is some questions, obviously, how is he going to pick it up? But I don't think it should be a problem. You got a guy who's been in varsity. He's been through it. I think it'll come pretty easy to him. And you add in a defense that's just as strong with linebacker Cody Longoria leading the middle of the group and defensive lineman Jaden James on the end. I mean, it's a strong defense that, last year came up with big time plays when they needed it, and it helped him get to that second round of the playoffs and win that district title. So it's going to be exciting. I think the biggest thing that people are looking for is Miles Lopez, though. We did catch up with him at the RGB Sports Satcom Media Day, and here's what he had to say about his move from Vela to PSGI and what he expects out of this year.
New year, new season's a couple weeks away. Just thoughts going into this new year, especially wearing a new uniform this year, man.
I'm really excited. I've been putting in a lot of work with the team all off season, so we're ready to show it out.
And just talk about, I guess, your chemistry with these guys. You're coming in, you're a senior, but it's your first year with the already established receiving core, established running back. Just talk about what it's been like meshing with those guys, and what do you feel like in that new offense?
I mean, I'm loving the new offense for sure. The air raid is definitely liking it a lot, and I've been putting in plenty of work pretty much every day with the receivers, so really excited to show the chemistry off.
That air raid offense, I think it's going to really maximize your abilities. I mean, just talk about playing in that kind of offense. What does it feel like for you as a quarterback? I mean, quarterbacks love to throw. You're going to get that chance to throw this year. I mean, what's that like?
I mean, it's only a dream come true. Every QB wishes they can throw the ball every play, so I'm excited to do it this year.
Definitely, man. Let's talk about this Bears team, man. It's a loaded group that you're coming into. Lots of established receivers, a really good running back. Defense is just as good. Just talk about the expectations for this team.
I mean, for sure, this team is projected to go 10-0 for sure. So that's definitely what we're trying to do, and trying to go further than last year in the playoffs for sure.
And with that expectations comes a target on your back too. What is that like for you guys? Know that teams are going to want to give you your best shot every night, especially knowing you guys are one of the top teams in that area this year.
I know definitely there's going to be a lot of teams coming after us, but the main focus has to just be on ourselves and on our game plan, and we should be good throughout the season.
And I guess talk about your receiving group. I mean, you got Ryan Vallejo, you got Caleb Salas, you got Emiliano Fraga, just a loaded group. I mean, have you been able to build that connection with them through 7-on-7? I mean, what's that looking like?
I mean, for sure, we have definitely built a connection. I've definitely built one with every single receiver, and they're all perfect in their own individual ways. So I'm excited to see how good they are in the pads.
Definitely, man. And last question. I mean, like I said, expectations are high this year. What's kind of the talk in the locker room as y'all prepare for the new year? What are y'all's expectations as a team?
I mean, for sure, we want to get another gold ball this year coming back. So for sure, we want to do it again, and as well as going further into the playoffs, making a deeper run.
Definitely, man. Hey, best of luck this year. I'm excited to see you play, man. Appreciate you.
That was Miles Lopez, former Vela quarterback, now a Bear. He's excited for this year. It's going to be fun to watch him play in that offense. Like I said, Lupe Rodriguez has a way with his quarterbacks, and I expect a big year from him and the Bears this year, who come in at number 3 in our poll, which takes us to number 2. The Valley's team a year ago, it seemed that everyone rallied around, went to that state semifinals, the Brownsville Veterans Chargers, man. I mean, biggest question, 5A to 6A, it's a huge jump. Different animal, Yeah, you made it last year. You got a target on your back now on top of that. Everyone wants to beat the Chargers this year. And, the question is, can they do it again? It's going to be tough, I can tell you that. 6A, you got just getting out of that district's going to be tough. Now you're talking about a whole different animal when it comes to playoffs. But, I mean, you got to see them. We were there for the ride. I mean, what are your thoughts on this number 2 team, the Brownsville Veterans Chargers?
Yeah, this Brownsville Veterans team and head coach J.C. Ramirez, I mean, they're just one of the most disciplined, sound football teams you'll see. They don't beat themselves, and a team that doesn't make mistakes, that doesn't give the opposition any opportunities to take advantage of and to jump on you. And this Brownsville Veterans team, I mean, they just consistently move the ball. They play sound defense, and they're just impressive all around. I know that they returned a good group of guys, went 5 runs deep just a season ago. So this Brownsville Veterans team, they were the Valley's darling last year. Everybody was riding behind them last year as they reached the 5th round against Smithson Valley in the Class 5A D1 state semifinals. Like you said, Ivan, now they're up to Class 6A. But, I mean, this Brownsville Veterans team, they have what it takes, I believe, to compete for a district title. They're in 32 6A. And, I mean, when you got some players like like Storm Montoya back at quarterback to kind of lead the charge after some big performances in the playoffs last season. I think the Brownsville veterans Chargers are set up to have continued success.
No, yeah, like you mentioned, Storm Montoya, you got Alvin Trevelyan back there too. The defense brings guys that saw a lot of playing time last year. That 15 games, I'm sure, will help. Eros Pineda, Max Fernandez, Andrew Quintero, 3 defensive players that all come back. And, Storm, he has high expectations for this team despite, they lose guys like Jerry. You got Gilbert Trillo gone, Matthew Pinion, Nick Tovar, all who went on to play at the next level now. So, there's question marks there, but Storm believes in this team. I was able to catch up with him at the media day as well. And here's what he had to say about the new target on the Chargers back this year.
What's up, guys? This is Ivan Palacios from RGV Sports. I'm joined by Brownsville veterans quarterback Storm Montoya. How you doing, man?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. I'm back for another year. Obviously you guys are coming off that historic run. It's a little different this year. I think you guys have a target on your back. I mean, what's it been like going into this new season, man?
A lot of people are gonna still doubt us a little bit. But we just got to come how we did this past season, but obviously a little bit more stronger because we're prepared for this moment. We faced a little 6A teams last year, so I think this prepares us for this season.
You mentioned that there's still going to be doubts. I feel like there's always doubts when you're from the lower valley for some reason. I don't know why people doubt the football there. You guys proved them wrong, but it seems people are expecting a little bit of a fall off this year. What do you have to say about that, man?
Just wait. Just wait for us because we're working hard right now, like everybody else. But it just matters on how we come out through this first game and show our heart.
A little bit different this year for you guys too, moving to that 6A district. It also gives you more time to kind of prepare for this. You got 6 non-district games. How big is that going to be for you, especially after losing some key guys like Gilbert, you lose Jerry, stuff like that? How big are those non-district games for you guys?
Yeah, we lost a good amount of core guys that we had on offense and on defense, but these guys filling in these spots, I'm full confident for these guys. They know what they're doing. They know their plays. They know their assignments. So I think we're going to be okay.
For you being the quarterback, second year there, I think third year overall in varsity, if I'm not mistaken, right? Since freshman year, right? Freshman year.
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel a little more pressure to kind of shoulder that load this year, especially since it's your last season?
Not pressure, but I do feel a little bit emotional because, I do want to play college ball. So I'm going to do everything I can for this team to get us where we need to be like last year,
Any ideas of where you want to play college ball yet? Any offers coming your way or any kind of sniffing around?
I have a little bit of interest here and there from Harding especially. They run the triple option as well. And that's pretty much it.
So that was Storm Montoya talking about this upcoming season, that move to 6A and the new target on their back. It doesn't seem like they feel a lot of pressure. Like, they're coming off that year, but it seems like they're ready to move past it. Yeah, it was great and all. New year, though, it's time to get to work. And I talked to JC earlier. He said to jump on the bandwagon early this year because he expects the exact same thing as last year.
Yeah. Brownsville veterans, I mean, they've been also, like we said, kind of similar to Edinburgh Bella, one of the newer programs. Maybe not as much playoff success as Edinburgh Bella has had, but, I mean, when you do what you did last year, everybody knows your name. Everybody knows Brownsville veterans now. They ain't going to sneak up on anybody in the playoffs. This Brownsville veterans team was for real last year, and I expect will be the real deal again this year as they come in at number 2 in the RGV Sports Class 5A, 6A top 10. And with Brownsville veterans at number 2, that leads us into our number 1 team, and that is the PSG North Raiders. PSG North has started the last few seasons off as our number 1 team, Ivan. And while people may say, oh, the PSG North, and they graduated a ton with this last year's group, but this PSG North team still has all the pieces, some of the best returning players in the Rio Grande Valley, and just a program and a culture just of in your face toughness, not going to back down, and just smash mouth football here at PSG North. And we expect more of the same from the Raiders here in 2024. Ivan, I mean, we talked about some just how they have some of the top players coming back. Ivan, just your thoughts on PSG North and what they look like coming into this season.
I mean, you're talking about a team that has 35 wins over the last 3 years, 10 playoff wins to their name over the past 3 years, 3 straight third-round appearances, and you expect a drop-off. I don't see it happening. You guys got Ethan Guerra, freshman, started as a freshman, now in his junior year. Yeah. Jesse Montes, Steven Garza at linebacker, Jordan Brewster, potential Division I lineman. Yeah. I mean, they got big-time names coming back. Yeah, there's some holes to fill, obviously. You can't expect everything to be, just like as it was. But to expect a drop off from this team, it's going to take a lot. And some of y'all might not like it, but PSG North is the real deal. I mean, Kaufman's built that program into one of the top in the valley. I don't expect that to change this year at all, even in that tougher district that they're in.
Yeah, they'll have their work cut out for them in 15-5 AD1, but PSG North has proven they can play with the best South Texas has to offer. And with this year, they got 12 returning starters, 5 on offense, 7 on defense, and really, I mean, they return a lot in their skill positions and linebackers and secondary. But where they're going to need to fill some holes is on the offensive and defensive line. And on offense, I mean, to have a guy like Jordan Brewster, who's now entering year 4 as a starter here for PSG North, he's just a big imposing presence that finishes blocks, and he'll be moving from tackle to center now to kind of lead that PSG North offense. You talked about it, Ivan. Ethan Guerra had over 1,500 rushing yards, over 300 receiving yards, just maybe the most well-rounded back returning here. Like we said, started since his freshman year, and a couple other guys. 2 of my favorite players just to watch on the field, just because they play with their hair on fire, sideline to sideline, just at 100 miles per hour. And that's linebackers Jesse Montes and Steven Garza in that 4-2-5 defense from PSG North. And if you're playing a 4-2-5 and these guys are your 2 linebackers, they're your 2 in the middle, I mean, you're set up for success, because these guys, they've been on varsity since freshman year. They have over 100 tackles every single year. So they were doing it since they were freshmen. Now they're seniors, and I'm just expecting just a really good year from that PSG North black shirt defense with Montes and Garza leading the way. And they got a few players as well, man, in the secondary. Ethan Montemayor, Diego Aparicio, who is really kind of a jack of all trades. We'll see how PSG North plans to use him. Bryan Guerrero in the secondary. And then we got new quarterback Darren Garcia, who's been on varsity since he was a freshman. But PSG North has had, over these last 2 years, 2 of the best quarterbacks in the valley, and Ale Aparicio, Julius Arredondo. They both graduated. So now Darren, who's got a chance to, and he's gotten in some games with the way PSG North has been able to blow out teams. He's got some action there late in fourth quarters. So he's playing varsity ball. Now he'll be the starting quarterback for this PSG North offense, and we're really looking forward to seeing what this PSG North team looks like here in 2024. We had a chance to catch up with a few of the PSG North Raiders at RGVSports.com Media Day earlier this season, and here's our time with the Raiders.
Ryan Ramos with RGVSports.com, and today we are joined by PSG North senior offensive lineman Jordan Brewster. Jordan, thanks for joining us here today at Media Day, man. So PSG North obviously been one of the best programs here in the Valley over the last few years, man. How does it feel to be tasked with keeping up that tradition here as you enter your senior season?
It's a hard task, but I think we have the capability to keep it.
And you guys have been known, man, for that physical style of play there on the offensive and defensive line. I know you guys lose multiple starters on both sides of the ball, so you're one of the returners. So how does it feel to be one of the guys leading that group now, being senior season, and being a guy that those other new starters will look to?
I like the task because I can let the young guys look up to me, and they get to follow in my footsteps and do what I did to become what I became.
Nice, man. And so a lot of people think, PSG North lost a lot from last year's group, lost a big senior class, but I know you guys still got ballers all over the field, man, especially with you and in the backfield and especially on defense. So just talk to me about how you and this team feels about what you guys got coming back and how people have been kind of talking about this PSG North football team.
We've been working all summer. We have some returning starters on our O-line. We have our backfield back. We have receivers. We have our secondary back. We're still a force to be reckoned with, so I don't think anybody should sleep on us.
Nice, man. And in a new district with some corporate schools in the mix, man, along with some good Valley schools. Just what are your thoughts overall on that district and how PSG North kind of fits into that mix?
The Valley schools, I think that they'll give us some good games, but I don't think that we should have any trouble there. But I think the corporate schools are going to be the harder schools to go against.
Nice.
That was the PSG North Raiders who joined us earlier this summer at RGVSports.com Media Day to kind of look forward to the season and really let people know that, hey, while people assume that PSG North, or people are going to say that PSG North lost a lot, well, this year's group is here to show you that, hey, tradition doesn't graduate, and we're here to show that the PSG North Raiders are still the real deal. So that wraps up the RGVSports.com 5A 6A top 10 poll, and now we're briefly going to run through our sub 5A top four teams and our Coastal Bend top teams, Ivan. And we'll start with the sub 5A here in the Rio Grande Valley. And we got Brownsville St. Joseph starting off at number 1, Port Isabel at number 2, Rio Hondo at number 3, and the Lyford Bulldogs coming in at number 4, Ivan. I mean, just four programs here in the Rio Grande Valley who have done really good things here at the sub 5A level.
Definitely, man. I mean, Lyford, their third quarterback in 3 years, but as we've seen time after time, last two sub 5 MVPs for our newspaper has been from Lyford quarterbacks. So can they do it again? History shows, they can. So then you got Rio Hondo, got some of the best athletes over there in Kean Lopez. Ruben Atkinson's a heck of a quarterback out there too. Port Isabel, can they get past that second round? They've been to the second round 3 years in a row, got bounced in the second round. And, Coach Tony Villarreal, senior heavy squad, this might be the year they push through. And then, like you mentioned, our number 1 squad, the Brownsville St. Joseph Bloodhounds, over at the TAPS level. They went 5-6 last year, but you can't argue with what they bring back. They bring back a dual threat in Gavin Cisneros, Claudio Torres, an athlete who could probably start for any varsity program, either at DB or receiver in the Valley. And an offensive lineman, Diego de la Cruz, who just committed to UTEP the other day, or today actually. So just, a loaded program, has the talent there. Yes, last year, like I mentioned, was just there's a lot of stuff that happened throughout the year that kind of shook them up a little, but they open as number 1. So, these sub 5A teams, sometimes they forget about them, but they got some talent down there too.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, those 4 teams are definitely some teams to watch when it comes to contending for district titles down the road and putting together playoff runs at the sub 5A level. And then, as we mentioned earlier, Ivan, we got the Coastal Bend Powers here in the mix, mixing it up with RGV. So we're going to rank our top 4 Coastal Bend teams. And I mean, all these teams are squads that Valley teams are plenty familiar with, having seen in the postseason. And it starts off with Corpus Christi Miller coming in at number 1, Corpus Christi Flower Bluff at number 2, Corpus Christi Veterans at number 3, and then Gregory Portland, the Wildcats, at number 4. Ivan, I mean, let's start on Corpus Christi Miller as we run through the top 4 quickly. Brownsville Veterans saw them last year in the 4th round. They had Brownsville Veterans on the ropes, and Corpus Christi Miller was nearly celebrating that state semifinal appearance, but they fell short. Now they start off this 2024 season at number 1 in our rankings. What can you tell us about Miller and some of the rest of these squads?
I mean, Miller's loaded. That's all you can say. They moved down to 5A D2 this year. But, I mean, you're talking about 16 returning starters, 8 on each side of the ball. You got Trevor Long at quarterback, almost 60 touchdown passes last year. Broderick Taylor, one of the top running backs in the Valley. Corey Holmes, who did it through the air and did, I think, 1,800 total yards, 21 total touchdowns. They got athletes there on that offensive side. Defense is just as good. You got guys like LaMarcus Cullum, Steven Richardson, both over 100 tackles. And, it's just an explosive offense with a dynamic defense to match it. They might give up some points, that defense, but they got playmakers there to make plays when needed. And, they're non-district schedules. I mean, you got games against Seguin, but I think, you open against Corpus Christi Veterans. But the biggest one, you take on DeSoto this year, arguably a top team at the 6A level this year, or one of the top teams at the 6A level. So they'll definitely be battle tested. That move down to 5A D2 will also help them out, I think. And I think they earned that number 1 spot. And, I think they can compete with the best of them, not just in the South Texas area, but in the state. And we move on to Flower Bluff and seeing that, you're going to get to see quite a bit there at that 15-5 AD1 level.
Yeah. I mean, if we could touch on the number 2 and 3 teams kind of in the same situation. Flower Bluff, they're the district champions a year ago there in 15-5 AD2. And now they find themselves in 15-5 AD1. They're our number 2 team. And Corpus Christi Veterans, obviously, just similar to Vela and some of these new programs that have really just taken the South Texas football by storm. Corpus Christi Veterans is right up there with them. Quarterback Jaden Palacio leads Corpus Christi Flower Bluff. Just real dual threat quarterback and player, and not a bad guy to lead that offense as Flower Bluff looks to win another district title. They got all the tools to make that happen. And then Corpus Christi Veterans, Ivan, with another experienced quarterback in Billy White, the third. Just like a guy who's been there, started 3 years, I believe, since he was a freshman. Now he's coming into his junior season, and just really excited to see what Corpus Christi Veterans looks like, being that we'll get to see them up close and personal here in Valley districts. And then we got number 4, Gregory Portland.
Gregory Portland, another program that's kind of really turned things around. 3 straight playoff appearances. They've been, I think they were at the state semis a couple years back, maybe 2 years removed from a state semifinal appearance. And they got guys like Reed Dooms, third year at quarterback. Cody Adame is coming off a breakout year, running back over 1,200 yards. And wide receiver / DB and Ryder Harrison, who their coaches have described as a D1 talent, 6'3", real rangy receiver / safety. And I mean, the defense has question marks when it's 2 returning starters, but what they've shown the last 3 years, they've really established themselves as one of the premier programs in the Coastal Bend area. So they've earned that number 4 spot. They're in that district with Miller, though. So that district title might be hard to come by. That might be one of the games to watch this year when Portland and Miller go head to head. But they wrap up our top 4 as we, branch out to the Coastal Bend this year and kind of, see these teams even more than we have in the past.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. Just branching out all over South Texas here in the 2024 high school season. And we're really looking forward to getting out there and getting these games cracking, man. Week 1 kickoff is just days away, coming to you Thursday, August 29th, and then that first Friday night lights of the 2024 high school football season, August 30th. We got some good games all across rivalry week, Ivan, as we know. So some good games here, not just in the Rio Grande Valley, but in the Coastal Bend, and you'll see us all over South Texas this upcoming season. So with that said, thank you guys for joining us here on the first episode of the RGVsports.com football podcast. We look forward to being with you the rest of the season, kind of breaking down the latest and greatest news here in the Rio Grande Valley. And Ivan, why don't you tell them where they can find all of our stories and stats and all that good stuff that coming up here in 2024.
Yeah, so be sure to give us a like and follow on Facebook, Twitter at RGV Sports, and make sure to check out our page too, RGVsports.com, and our YouTube, where we'll be posting weekly episodes of our podcast. Like Bryan said, we're going to bring you the best football coverage throughout the year, and we're excited to be here with you guys, and let us know what else you guys want to see, and excited for this year, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can catch us on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast, on Spotify or iTunes, we will be there as well. So, guys, we will be here with you every week, bringing in coaches, bringing in players to spend some time with us here on the RGV Sports Podcast. And we look forward, as we do every year, Ivan, to just shining a light on RGV football here in South Texas. And as football continues to grow here, not just at the high school level, we got UTRGV football set to start in the year. So just exciting times across the Rio Grande Valley. And Ivan and I are just excited to be here with you, breaking it all down and recapping it every week. So thank you guys for joining us here on the first episode of the RGVsports.com football podcast. We'll catch you next week.
Shout out to Ray Silva, the man behind